Hello everyone, in this video I want to show you how to use annotation and texts in your drawing. So let's first focus on texts. In order to add some text into your drawing, you need to go into Annotate tab top here, right? Click on that. And then you will see this icon, which is a big A, right? And there are two options for you. If you click here, you can see that we have multiple line text and the other one is single line. So as the name says, we can have multiple lines by using the first one, and we can have single line with the second one. So let's first click on the multiple line text and see what happens. So click on that. So the first thing that you need to do is to specify the first corner for a box of text that you would like to insert. So first click here, then move your cursor and select the other corner of the box. So for example, somewhere like here. So now you can see that you can start typing. So let's say I want to say this is a test. And so you can't see any multiple line because I have a small or short text. So I want to insert a chunk of text. So you can see now that we have a box of text. In order to close that, as you saw, I clicked on somewhere here, just in a blank area. But there is another way that you can close out this. Let me just place another box. I will place it here. I have a text ready to be pasted here. You will use the same method in order to insert your text for your concept statement for your final project, and also for your studio course. So just copy and paste that text into this box. Probably you write that in your for example, Microsoft Word. And when you did that, you can click on Close Text Editor or click somewhere here. Both works well. And just click somewhere and boom, you have this text. If you want to delete that, just select this one and hit delete button. So now let's see how we can work with that. If you want to edit this text, just simply double click on this. Double click. Now you are in edit mode. So similar to what we have in Microsoft Word, we have the same tools here as well. So for example, let's say that you want make something to be boldface. Let me just zoom in. I click on that and click on this B for boldface. So now we have boldface. Or for example, maybe you want to have something to be italic. So you have the same tools here as well. Another important thing that you need to be familiar with is justification and how you can just arrange and lay out your text. So you can justify that toward left, center, or right, and also you have this option to justify that, right? So let me just hit Ctrl A to select the whole text and then select on this one. So now you can see that we have a more cleaner appearance here. When you're done, you can click on Close Text Edit. Right, so we will have something like this. So let me just show you other options that we have here. So let's say that you want to have a bullet point. I select everything, I click here and click on numbers. You can see that we have numbers here, or you can have bulleted to have bullet points. And also you can have letters. So make sure that you utilize these tools while you are working on your projects. Another cool options that we have is columns. We can have 2 columns for this box. So let's say that I want to have 2 columns. So click on columns, click on static columns, and I select 2. So now I have 2 boxes, but as you can see, the text fits really well in one column. If I want to change that, I can click on this, and as I move that toward up, you can see that now I have 2 almost equal columns, right? And as you saw, we have different options. I can select this ruler and change the width of the column. Or for example, I can use this double arrow to shift this column toward the other column. So I have full control over the appearance of my text. So probably something like this would be nicer, right? So this is the first option that we have, and you can play around with that. There are other options that you can use, and I will talk about some of the options later on. But before that, I want to mention that make sure that you're using spell check, especially for your final project. Any text that you are creating, make sure that you're using this great feature and make sure that there is not any error. Right now I have too many errors because this is a meaningless text, but make sure that you don't have any spelling errors, right? So now let me just click on close text editor and see how I can insert a single line. So let's click on this one, single line, and you can see that something is different from multiple line text. The first thing is that it asks you to specify a start point for the text. Okay, cool. I will click here. Then it asks you to specify the height of the text. So you can either use your cursor to visually select a height, but that's not really accurate. So as you can see, it reads 1 and something, for example, 1 inch. So let's just type in the accurate dimension. I will type in 1 inch and hit enter. Now it asks for a degree, right? Because we want to have the angle of the text. So it doesn't make sense to have anything other than probably 90 degree or something like that. So right now it's 0. 0 is totally fine. So just hit enter. And now you can start typing. So let's say I want to have, this is the first line and period. So if you want to go to the next line, you can simply hit enter. And this is the second line, period. And if I hit enter, it will start for the next, it will start the next line. But if I want to get out of this command, I need to hit enter one more time. Right now it's done. So let's do that one more time. Hit on single line text, click the corner, define the height. This time I will add enter half an inch, enter. 0 is fine. And now I will type the text. This is a smaller text, 1 period. If I want to finish that, I need to hit enter twice. 1, 2. Got it? So now let's see how they are different. If I click on the first text, you can see that the first line is selected, and I can use this script to just simply move it around, right? I will put it here, for example. So you can see that each line is detached. They are not attached to each other. They are independent, right? So this is the most important difference between these two. So when should you use multiple line texts and when should you use single line text? So basically, if you have a big chunk of text that you want to insert in your drawing, for example, your concept statement or something in that nature, it's better to use multiple line text because you have full control over that. But if you want to add, for example, a drawing title, a scale of the drawing or something like that, it's better that you use single line texts. So now let's focus on the short command for any of these two. For multiple text, you need to type MT, or you can type mtext, both works equally, MT, enter, and now you can insert the text box that you want, right? So here is another example. I click on close text editor and I have the text, right? So I select on that and hit delete. So the command for that was MT. If you want to insert a single line, the command for that is DT. Enter, click. If I hit enter, it will accept the previously inserted dimension, which is 1/2 inch, and 0 is totally fine. I just hit enter. This is an example. So the command is DT enter, right? So make sure that you remember these commands because you will see those commands later on in your quiz. So now let's talk about special characters that you can use. So for example, let's say you want to type in 30 degree. So how can I insert the symbol for degree? So let me zoom in here. So if you come here, you can see that there is a symbol button here, and I click on that, and you can see a bunch of useful symbols that we use. Probably we use these the first three ones more frequently. For degree, I just click on that and that's it. And you can use the same thing for example, plus minus, click. Or for example, for diameter. Diameter is another symbol that we need to use frequently. So here is how you can insert them. So now let's go and see how we can type in the same thing in a single line text. If I come here and say, for example, I want to have 30 degree, I don't have the same option here, right? So this is one of the limitation of single line texts. So how can I insert that kind of symbols into single line text? It's easy. So let's go back here because I want to show you something. So probably you notice that there is some texts in front of any of these. For example, for degree, we have percentage, D. So if you insert these 3 characters, it automatically will change to degree symbol. And the same thing is for plus minus, percentage P, percentage C. And you can find a list of these things on page 11.8. So these 3 are the most important one. I suggest that you memorize them because probably you will see them again in your exam. So let's try if they actually work. So we come here at percentage D. So we can see that it turns into degree symbol. Let's try plus minus, percentage P. So you can see that's how we can insert a special character in single line. So basically a single line text could be more, can make your drawing neater and cleaner because they don't have that many options and you can work with them easier. So try to use any of these types in the appropriate location. So now let's look at the options that we have here. So you can see I want to talk about this one because it helps a lot to have a cleaner look in our layout. So this is text align tool. Just select one of them. Just select this one. And you can see that the first thing that you need to select is select text objects to align. So let's say that I want to align the second line with the first line. So I will select the second line. When I'm done, I hit enter. Now I need to select the object that I want to object to, right? So I want to align this one with the first line. So I select this one. And now here is the line. I select a 90-degree line and click just somewhere like that. So now I have a perfectly aligned text. So let me undo that and see if I can use the same command to align all these 4 single line texts. So I will select a text align. I will select the texts that I want to align. I want all these 3. Hit enter. Now I want to select this one because this is the reference for me, right? I select this one. Now I need to draw this line. So now you can see that I have a perfectly aligned lines. Make sure that you use this command in your layouts because it makes your work much easier and the look of your project would be much neater, right? So this is another thing that I wanted you to know. So now let me see what else. So now I want to talk about text style. So right now you can see that we have Arial font, right? And what if I want to change the face of the font, right? So there is a great tool in AutoCAD that can help me to work with that and change those modifications. If I hover over this small arrow, it says text style. So go ahead and click on that. When you click on that, you will see this text style box, and here you will see that all the styles that you already have. We already have annotative and standard. Standard is the one that we are using right now. If you look at here, you can see that standard is selected. So now let's say that we want to create something new. I will hit new button here, and I will say that test and hit OK. So now I have a new text style, which is test. The font for that is Arial, right? I can click here and change it to something else. Let's say that I want to have, for example, anything, maybe this one. So you should never use this kind of fonts in your drawing, but this is for the example. So for the height, you can also define the height, the default height for that. And it's a really amazing tool because now you can have consistent font size in your drawing. So now let's say that 1/2 inch is something that I'm looking for. So the rest of them, we don't really work with those. For example, if you click on upside down, you can see that it's upside down, or backward it's up backward, or with factor it just changed the space between characters and so on. We don't really want to work with that with those options. The most useful parts are font name, font style, this is for example regular, and we will talk about annotative in a second, and height. So click on apply and close. So now you can see that it changed from a standard to test. If you want to switch back to a standard, just click on here and select standard. So that's how you can switch between different text styles. So let's say that I want to work with test. Click on test, click on single line text, click somewhere. I just hit enter. And you can see that I can type in. This is, let me zoom in. This is a test point. Enter, enter. So now we can see that we have a new typeface, right? So how can I change this to be in a standard, because I don't really like the font? So one approach is that I can select that one and I can come here and select standard, right? So now the text style has been changed to a standard. So that's how you can change the text style of any particular text. So this is how we can work with that. And if I come here and use DI to check the dimension, you can see that it's 1/2 inch. It's exactly the same dimension that we defined here. So probably you will need to have different text styles for different parts. For example, for your drawing title, you need to have bigger font size. For your scale, the font size for your scale would be a smaller one. So you can change that in this way. So now let's see if I want to have, for example, the text, the height of the text. So instead of 1/2 inch, I can come here and change it to 1/4 inch and hit apply, close. So if I select this one and change it to test, now if I check the dimension, you can see that the height is 1/4 of an inch. It means that you can change the height of a text style and change the whole text within your document with just one adjustment. So that's why you need to use text style instead of any other method that might come to your mind. So now let's just take it and change it to Blue City. Let me see if I can find that. So I can't find that. Let's just change it to this one. This one, I like this one. This is clean look. And now we can see that it has been changed. And I can do the same thing for this one, because if you select this multiple line text, you can see that we have a standard text style. I can switch that to, for example, text style. So that's how you can work with these things. So the next concept that I want to talk about is annotative text. So right now, what you can see is that I'm defining the text height in model space. So basically, I'm giving the actual height of the text that can be seen on the model space. So when I use layout later on, depending on the scale that I'm using, the text height will be changed. So here is an example that I created. So let's say I want to put a text here, somewhere here. So I come here and select standard. And if I check the standard text style, you can see that the height is 1 foot. Okay, I click close, select single line and select here. And I will type, for example, this is a text, double enter. And if I come here and check the height of that, it's 1 foot, right? It's almost 1 foot, right? So now let's see what happens if I place that in a layout. So here is how it looks. If I select 1/8 of inch equal to 1 foot, this is the scale of this viewport. If I set it to that, you can see that my text is much smaller compared to when I have a 1/4 equal to 1 foot, right? So you can see that the standard text the height of the standard text will change as we are changing the scale of a viewport. In order to address this issue and have a consistent look in our drawings, AutoCAD has a really great feature which is called annotative text. So what does annotative text mean? So to explain that, let's move to another file that I created. And here is another example. Let's go to the model space. So you can see that I have two texts. One of them is annotative text. I will show you how to create that in a moment. And one of them is a standard text. And if I go into my layout, you can see that on the top of the layout, I have 1/4 equal 1 foot scale, and the annotative text is exactly in the same dimension that we have in 1/8 equal to 1, but the standard text is smaller in this one. That's how AutoCAD manage this thing. So basically, if I come here and use DI to select, you can see that it's 1/2 inch, the height. And if I come here, it's still 1/2 inch. So basically what I did was that I told AutoCAD to maintain this height throughout my file. So how could we create annotative text? In order to do that, we need to provide two pieces of information to AutoCAD. The first one is that we need to create an annotative text style I will show you how. And the second one is that we need to provide the scale that we want to work on. So let's first focus on creating annotative text style. In order to create that, we come here, click on this little arrow to go into the text style box. So we already have an annotative. This is a default text style that is annotative, comes by any file in AutoCAD. You can see that there is a small scale icon by that, and whenever you saw that, it means that that's annotative text style. So let's see how it's different from standard. The first difference is that we have this annotative checkbox checked, and if I click on the standard, you can see that it's not checked, but this one is checked. And the second thing is that we have paper text height. So you are defining the final text height that you want to see on your paper, not in your model space. And if I click on the standard, you can see that we have height here, and you need to define height for a standard and non-annotative text style, and the height is the height in model space. So that's the major difference. So what paper size height do you want to have? So let's say I want to have half an inch, so I will type it in, I hit apply, and now I hit close. So now let's start and changing the text style to annotative first, and let's type something. But the second pieces of information that we want is a scale that we want to use, right? Otherwise, AutoCAD doesn't know how to calculate the height that you want in different scales. The best way to define the scale is to come into your viewport. And so let's say this is the viewport that I want. Activate that and be in the paper space, model space. Come here and change the scale that you want, and then start adding your texts here. So I will select here the first point, the angle 0 is fine, and I will type in annotative text and double enter. So let me first expand this viewport to see the actual text. Okay, and so here it is. We have an annotative text. Let's see how much is the dimension, the height. DI enter. I will come here, and if you look at here, you can see that it is half an inch, right? So let's try this and see what happens if I add another viewport. So I will copy this viewport at the top, and I will change that to another scale, for example, a quarter. So now I want to add another text here. I will click here, 0 is fine, and I will type text 2, enter, and I just get out of the viewport. You can see that although the scale are different, the scale of viewports are different, the text height is still the same. Let's just check if it's, yeah, that's correct, that's half an inch. So as you can see, I am making these dimensions. I'm measuring the height of the text while I'm in the paper space, right? And let's go back in the model space and see what happens there. If I come here and look at the text, the annotative texts that I have, you can see that it's huge, right? Because this is the actual dimension that we need to have in model space, and to be translated into half an inch in paper space. So AutoCAD is doing all the calculation for you, so you can have a consistent look in your drawings. So that's how we can use annotative texts. So there is just one point that I want to mention here before I move on to talk about dimensions and other topics. If I come here, you can see that my other text is not visible, right? The text that I created here. And if I come here, you can see that the other text is not, text 2 is not visible here. That's how AutoCAD is managing things, right? So if there's a difference between the scale size that you are selecting for any of your annotative texts, they will not be seen in other viewports with different scale. But it's not the case if we have the same scale. So let me just illustrate that here for you. Let me create a viewport. You can see none of my annotative texts are visible. I will select 1, 8, and as you can see, as soon as I select this one, my annotative texts that were created in the same scale are visible. Now I want to talk about dimensions. First, we need to know the different parts of dimension. This is the dimension text, right? This is dimension line. This is arrowhead, or sometimes we call that a tick mark. And this is the extension line that goes to the actual place. And this gap is something that we can modify in AutoCAD. So basically, we can modify every pieces of an extension, a dimension in AutoCAD. So now let's go back to AutoCAD and actually working with dimensions. So similar to text style, we need to define the dimension style. In order to do that, come into the Annotative tab, then click on this little arrow here, and it will open this Dimension Style Manager box. So you can see the list of styles that you have. It's exactly the same as what we saw previously in text style. So we have one annotative, one standard. If you want, you can click here and add new ones, or change the, for example, if you want to have this one as the current, by clicking on set current, you can modify any of them, and so on. The good thing is that we have a preview of the style that we have here. So for example, if I click on the standard, you can see that right now there's not much difference because they are exactly the same, but we will change that and we will see how they will change. So the concept is the same. Whenever you see annotative or this small scale icon, it means that that's annotative. So let's create something. Click on annotative and then click new. When you do so, it asks you to start with a style. So that way you can save on your time, right? Because basically there are too many factors that you can change. By basing your new style on a previously created style, you can just work faster. So we want to have annotative, so click on annotative. The annotative checkbox is on if we want to have annotative, and let's change it to test dimension and click on continue. So now here it is. We have test dimension. This is the new one. And these are the different tabs that we have. And we can modify almost every single pieces of these dimension that we previously talked about. So the first thing that you need to change is to change primary units. Click on primary units tab. You can see that it's decimal, which is not what we are looking for. Although I changed the unit to architecture in my model, the unit needs to be changed as well. Otherwise, it will show decimal. So click on decimal and select architectural. So you can change the precision. Right now, that's okay. The fraction and everything, how you want to round off the numbers and so on. And there are other options here. Probably you don't need to change them. And it's just two of them that I want to talk about is prefix. You can add a prefix to your dimension text. So let's say that I want to add A before my dimension. So you can see that I have A1 and something, or you can add suffix to that, and for example B. There are situations that you might need to use those, but for now just leave them blank. The second thing that I want to talk about is symbols and arrows. If you click here, you can see that we can change the arrowheads. Right now it's arrow, right? So we can click here and change it to anything that we want. Probably most often we use architectural tick. So go ahead and select any one that you want. In the book, you will see that book tells you to choose a specific one. So I will select architectural tick. And you can also change the arrow size by just increasing or decreasing. So let's say that I want to have half an inch. If I select on that, you can see that I have huge arrow architectural tick or tick marks. So let's just change it to what it was previously. I think it was this much, and that makes sense. So you can change that if you want based on your need. The next important tab is text. Click on that and you can see that you need to select a text style for your dimensions. Right now that's standard. You can define the text height here. Probably it will receive from the text height from your text style, and if you change it here, probably it will change. But what we're looking for is to have annotative, and look what happens when I select annotative. The text height will be changed to what I previously selected for my annotative text style, and you can't change that anymore. That will be grayed out. So let's see how we can change that. If you click on these three dots, it will directly bring the text style dialog box on the dimension style box. So now you can simply change whatever you want. You can see that the text height is 1/2 an inch, and if you are happy with that, that's okay. You can change the font name, and you can also create new style and change according to your needs. But right now that's okay. I will just cancel that out. I will select annotative, and you can see the preview here as well. One of the things that is important is to know about text alignment. So look what happens. Right now everything is horizontal, right? If I select on align with dimension line, you can see that now things are rotating to align with the dimension line. See how they are different. So there are situations that you need to use this one, and if you select that one, that's some differences, but basically these two has the most impact on your drawing. So I leave that for horizontal. And the other thing that I want to talk about is lines. Lines is so important. So we talk about different components. The first one is dimension line, which is this one. You can change the color. Right now that's by block. I will select red to see which ones we are talking about. These are dimension lines, and you don't need to change that. Otherwise, other than the book instruct you to do so. But for now, I will keep it as red so you can actually see these differentiated lines. Another one is extension line, which are these ones. I will change the color to yellow so you can distinguish them better, right? These are the extension lines. And these are two important numbers that you can change. Extend beyond dimension line, which refers to these ones. Let's increase that and see what happens. Sometimes you need to increase that to make it better. I will increase it to 1/2 an inch. You can see that it extends beyond that. And there is another one which is offset from our origin. So this, we are talking about this gap, and I previously told you that we can this gap as well. So let's increase it to 1/2 an inch. So now we can see that there is a gap. Sometimes we need to have that in order to differentiate between lines of the lines for your walls and from the lines of the extension line. So keep those in mind and know how you can reach them. These are in the lines. So we talk about lines, we talked about symbols, we talk about text, and also you can change the where to place the text placement. You can play around with them. And also fit is another one. It asks if there is if there is not enough room between these two extension lines, how to deal with the situation. So you can select different things. You can say that just add an arrow and pull it out and just put it there. Or there are different situations. You need to work with them depending on different situations. And we've talked about primary. You need to make sure that you change it to architecture. And yeah, that's all. So if you hit OK, you will have text, dimension, style, and I will hit close. This is just for demonstration purposes. So you will create a dimension style on book, and you need to refer to page 1110 and just follow the instructions that the book is providing. You need to create interior design dimension style. Just follow those steps, and I won't go over that. Just make sure that you are following everything in book. And next I want to talk about using dimensions, and it's on page 1118. So it's so easy. Come into annotate, click on this linear, and it asks for the first point, then it asks for the second point, and then you can bring it and place it somewhere. And here it is. This is a dimension. And if the text size is not good enough, you can change that in your dimension style. So right now you know how to change those things, and if you follow the instruction from the book, you will be fine. Those dimensions, those text heights are fine. So as you can see, when I hover over this dimension, there is a scale icon above that, which means that this is an annotative dimension style. Excuse me. So if I click on this arrow, you can see that I have different options as well. So depending on the situation, you can use any of them. I want to demonstrate angular as well. So click on angular. You need to select two lines, and then you can simply place that angular dimension. So these are the principles of dimensions. Before I go and go over another topic, I want to demonstrate continue dimension as well, because I think that's interesting and it could be really useful and facilitate your project. So let's say that you want to dimension all along this line. So you select this linear dimension, click here, and place it somewhere. For example, let's say here. Then click on continue. When you do that, it will continue the previous dimension, and you can just simply click and go on. And when you're done, you can simply hit enter. So, and hit escape. So this is the dimension. So that way you can have continuous and fast dimensions. So now let's move to another topic, which is MultiLeader. So the concept for MultiLeader is so easy, and it's so similar to what we saw in dimension and also text style. So basically, what is MultiLeader? MultiLeader is a label. Whenever you want to label a part of your drawing, you use MultiLeader, and if you come into Annotate, you can find that icon here. But before we use that, I want to use this icon, this little arrow, in order to see the MultiLeader Style Manager. And as you can see, we have the preview, and we have two styles right now. As we add more styles, you can see the name of those styles here. And let's start with creating something new. I will select a standard and hit new button. So you can just name it whatever you want. I keep it as this. You can select Annotative. So for your exercise, you need to refer to book and follow exactly what book says. I click continue. And there are 3 tabs. So the first one is leader format. So there are 2 general types. One is straight. You can see that this is a straight line. You can also change it to a spline, which is this curved line. So depending on the situation, you might use different ones. I keep it as a straight line. And you can change the color. This is the same thing. It will receive the color from the block. You can change it to layer. That way you will have more control over the text, line weight and so on. But for now, I will keep it as is. Line type, you can change the line type to load, for example, dash line or whatever you want. But probably continuous line is more appropriate line type. And also line weight. Line weight, you can change anything here. And as I said previously about choosing the color, it would be much easier if you use your layers in order to manage line weight. So don't change it here other than the book tells you to do so. So let's focus on other things. The symbol, as you can see, that's the arrowhead is an arrow, and you can change it to, for example, it's a dot. Or for example, you can change it to architectural tick. So you can change these things as you want, but probably close fill is the best option for us. And also you can change it. So let's just change it to demonstrate how it will affect. For example, you can see that we have a huge leader right now. So the second tab is leader structure. Probably we don't need to change anything here other than the book tells you to do so, and you can select annotative to make that annotative. Book will talk about that. Make sure that you're reading the book carefully and apply everything, because it will instruct you to create different styles for text, for dimensions, and also for multi-leader, and we will use all of them throughout the course. And the third tab is content, and you can select the text style that you would like to use, for example, annotative or any other text style that you have. And similar to what we said, what I said on in dimensions, as we change it to annotative, any annotative style, you can't change the text height anymore, and you can click on these three dots to reach out this text style and change it here directly, or creating even a new text style for your multi-leaders. And yeah, basically that's it. So I will cancel that for now. And now let's see how we can use that. So come here and click on this multi-leader icon and click on the first point. This is the point for your arrowhead. Click here, and now you can add a text, right? And that's it. Click on close text editor and you will have your first multi-leader. So obviously the text height is not appropriate for this scale, and also the arrowhead is not really good, or is not big enough. So we need to change all of them. So you already know how to deal with that. So that's all. But before I finish this lecture, I want to talk about one more thing. How could we change any specific element without changing the whole style? So let's say that for this particular dimensions, I don't really need to have these extension lines. How can I change this without creating a new dimension style for this specific one, and without changing the whole style? So that's easy. Select whatever that you want to change, right click and click on properties. Right, and as you do so, you will see this property panel, and you can change things specifically for this dimension. So let me just zoom in here. So for example, for arrows, you can change it from architectural tick to dot. So I changed the first arrow, and the second arrow is still architectural tick. So I can change that to. So now let's see if other things has been changed or not, other dimensions. Now, no, you can see that they are still architectural tick. So I know you can also change the height or the dimension of the, for example, architectural arrow. So let me change it to 1 inch. So now they're bigger. Let's change it to 3. So now they are bigger, even bigger. You can come, this is line and arrow. So now let's see if I can change other things. For example, let's talk about text. So I can change also the text, but right now the dimension style that I'm using is annotative, so I can't change that other than I change it to something that is not annotative. I will select that one and I will increase the text height to 1 feet, and now you have a huge dimension. So yeah, that's how you can work with changing one dimension without changing the rest of your dimensions. So yeah, that's it, and good luck.